Life is precious. I think we would all agree. But often we find that we take the very things that we do every day in life for granted until something happens in a blink of an eye. Hello, I'm Tom Russo, and this is In a Blink of an Eye, where we discuss stories from ordinary people whose lives are changed in an instant and how they overcome through faith, courage, and determination. Join me on this podcast for uplifting stories of how people face various challenges and learn not only to survive, but to thrive. In a Blink of an Eye is sponsored by Marketplace.live. Find what you need and get what you want at Marketplace.live. That's Marketplace.live. Now, today I am honored. We are joined by a good friend of mine that I haven't talked to in many years, Jim Vines. Jim, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. So, Jim, before we get going into your blink of an eye moments, because I know you've had a couple in your life, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? Your family, all that good stuff.
Sure. My dad was in the Air Force. I was born at Goodfellow Air Force Base in San Angelo.
Okay.
And he was an instructor pilot on B-25 Mitchells. He stayed in the Air Force until he got out. We moved to Lampasas, Texas.
I'm an Air Force brat myself.
Yeah.
So
he was a county extension agent. And then he spent about 3 years there, and we moved to Comanche, Texas.
I know Comanche very well. My father-in-law was from there.
He went to work for the bank, worked for Comanche National Bank. Spent 30 years in the banking business and retired. He went back to we had a little small ranch down in Comanche, and he worked the cattle, and we all worked cattle. We had a great time running around the creek. We picked pecans to buy bicycles and things of that nature. But he was he died in 2019.
Okay.
And so we buried him down at the ranch. He's down there having a good time.
Absolutely. He's in heaven now, looking down on us.
Yes, he is. Sometimes I think he's wanting to yell at us a little bit about things we've been doing, not following his instructions.
Well, now I know you went to college at Sam Houston State.
Yes.
And go Bearcats, right? And
yes, sir.
And then you went into the corporate world a little bit. Tell me a little bit about you had a very unique career path because you had two very distinct careers, very similar to me.
When I graduated from Sam Houston, I started working for Target stores in Austin. They were opening new Target stores in Austin, and I was the lead security officer, manager of the security department, and spent about 2 years there. And it was kind of weird that I did an internship back in Comanche for the 220 Judicial District, and Judge Andrew Campbell sent a letter to my house, unannounced. And the letter was a court order appointing me as a juvenile probation officer of the 220 Judicial District. So
kind of voluntold, huh?
Yeah, I had to go call my boss and say, I got a letter from the district judge appointing me as a juvenile probation officer back home in Comanche. And I guess I got to resign. And he said, you better, because it's court order. So I resigned and went to live in Hamilton, Texas, and started out as a juvenile probation officer of the 220 Judicial District, which was Comanche, Hamilton, and Bosque County. So I had 3 counties to work and take care of the kiddos down that part of the country, and get calls in the middle of the night from the sheriff in Comanche saying, you're 70 miles away, you better get here quick.
I can't even imagine the stories that you have from that life. I mean, just unbelievable times.
Yes, back then it was a whole lot different from where I resigned or retired from in McLennan County in Waco, Texas. And it was different. I was out there on the road. I had a police band radio in my car, and I get calls from police, sheriffs, deputies, chasing people or whatever, and enjoyed just traveling back and forth in the middle of the night. Had one wreck one night, hit some slick ice, but that was all right. I survived it. But it was fun because I didn't have anybody with me. I was the single person, only person in those 3 counties working juvenile probation.
Holy cow. I
So,
can't even imagine. And then, something took you to kind of follow your father's footsteps into banking, which is where
yes,
our paths crossed.
yes, I was working for the bank in Waco, which was converted to First National Bank, and and they transferred me to Lubbock.
Which is where I was at.
Yep.
And we
So
became friends in Lubbock, working in the same department in the lending department there. And along these lines, you were a banker for many years, and you
yes,
kind of retired from banking and went back into probation officer,
yes, I was working in the bank up in Pampa, Texas, and they had me doing some things. And my wife was still living in San Angelo. I worked for a bank in San Angelo, and she was still living in San Angelo, and she wanted me to come home. So I came home and went to work for the juvenile probation department in Tom Green County, and then got the call to move to back to Waco after we spent some time there. So she was with the teaching, and I went to the probation department just as a lonely field officer, and really enjoyed that. Had a good boss, Roddy Davison, and then Bobby Campos. And then when I left, I had Colin Coker. So I worked under the 3 chiefs. I got promoted from the field officer to the intensive supervision officer, which was real fun. I had a partner that kind of crazy. We'd go into houses and wait for the police to come later and grab the kids and drag them out. But we caught a bunch of kids, and he and I worked real good together. Then
Well, God
once I,
bless you for what you did. I mean, two very distinctly different careers, just as mine with banking and teaching. I helped kids in the teaching world, and we both helped people in the banking world. And you helped kids in the probation world, and helped people in the banking world. So, and that's all great. Now, tell me a little bit about your family, and then I know it's going to get into one of your in a blink of an eye moments. But tell me about
yes,
you mentioned your wife. Tell me about the rest of your family.
well, Julie followed me around in the banking business until I got tired of chasing bank labels and name changes and all that kind of stuff. Uh, we were working in Waco, and I had a daughter named Brittany.
Yes.
She was 3.5 years old, and she woke up this week. We were down in Houston at the stock show, and she was wheezing and couldn't breathe real good. And we decided we better take her to the doctor when we get back to Waco. Got back to Waco and took her to the doctor, and really couldn't find out what was really wrong with her. But she was having some problems with her circulation with her heart. So we kind of sit there and medicated her. And finally, she just got to where she just throwing up and couldn't sleep, and took her to a doctor up in Fort Worth, and he diagnosed her with idiopathic cardiomyopathy.
Wow. That's a
We,
mouthful, and it's a dangerous situation.
yes, it's basically where your heart swells up, gets enlarged, and it doesn't circulate well enough, and the blood was backing up into her lungs. And so they finally decided to intubate her at Fort Worth and try to see if they could get her back going. All those medications and things. Well, they ended up thinking she needed a heart transplant. So
At
they
three and
started
a
trying to
half years
find a
old.
transplant hospital, and luckily, Texas Children's in Houston accepted her in their transplant program. So we went to Houston. They had her in ICU, and was working with her and trying to figure out doing tissue, trying to find tissue to be able to see what a donor would tissue would match. Then one Sunday night, I guess it was, she really couldn't breathe real good, and that morning she died.
Oh Lord. I can't even begin to empathize or sympathize with you. I just know how crushing that was. And what year was that she passed?
1993.
1993, and that was shortly before you and I met, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. And I know that this was definitely that blink of an eye moment because no one's ever prepared to lose their child. And I can't imagine the struggles that you had both internally and externally. Tell me a little bit about your struggle and how you never forget and you never put it away. But how do you move on from something like that? That's a tribute to you because you continued on and you soldiered on God, she's in God's hands now. It's hard for the living to put up with what we've got left. Yesterday was the 11th anniversary of my mom's death, and I know she's in heaven looking down on us, but I know, we still struggle every day, and that, but I can't imagine a child. Tell me a little bit about that struggle.
Well, the time she passed away, my wife was really having a hard time. Of course, they wanted to do an autopsy to find out what the heart looked like and what happened to it and how much damage was done as just a kind of their research, their Texas Children's. So we had to leave her there in Houston, and we started packing all our stuff and going home. And my wife wanted to stay and ride with her back in the hearse or whatever to Waco, and we said, no, you just got to go with us. And what was the most fearful thing for me was my wife didn't really react. It's what I thought she would react. Now, she cried and things when Brittany died, but when we left and headed home, she was real quiet, didn't say much. And it was fearful for me to wonder what was going in through her mind. I mean, we both just, crushed and having to drive home.
I know.
We also had Kayla, which was our oldest daughter, was down there. And it was sad and to watch her, miss her sister.
How much older is Kayla than Brittany?
Kayla's about, she was 4 years older.
Okay.
Uh,
Old enough to know what was going on.
yes, yes. We got home and was waiting on them to bring her to Waco Funeral Home. And we sat there and waited a couple of days, and they finally brought her up there. And when we looked at her, she didn't look good. So we had a friend of ours fix her face and her hair and made her look like Brittany. The struggles we had was just trying to grasp that she's gone and will not be with us the rest of her life. And our
But
pastor,
she is with you. She
yes,
is
she
with you.
is.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I had to throw that in.
Our pastor was really strong, and he really gave us a lot of information and kind of visited with us quite often during the period between the time of the funeral, and told us, he said the sermon he was going to talk with Brittany's okay. And that gave me a little bit of relief because Brittany was okay. She was in heaven. And, we felt kind of a little solace that
And she wasn't in pain anymore either.
she wasn't in pain. She wasn't struggling to breathe. But the gospel, the one he read that day, and as far as his sermon during the funeral, was Brittany's okay. And wanted to let us all know that where she was, that she was in good hands and she was okay. And that was kind of a healing point for me. I mean, I did a lot of my mourning and crying when she was in the hospital and when they were trying to get her to breathe and things. And so I went through most of my uh,
Before she
grief
died.
while she was in the hospital
Right. Before she passed away.
before she finally died. But
And and your wife, did she continue to struggle or
yes, she really kind of went downhill. She ended up in a hospital for a little bit and was treated for basic depression and self harm. And she got on medication, had a good psychiatrist, and she got back together and got back in school. I think the school helped her keep her mind off of it. And I know me working kept my mind off of it. And she finally, with some medications and things, uh, came around a little bit. But, you hear a lot, you read a lot of times in newspapers, the deceased was survived by this person and survived by this person. And the true meaning of survived is that's what you do. You survive. You
do?
don't quit. You don't give up on them. You're just a survival. And so you run through life surviving and, praying and going, having good friends, Christian friends around you that when you did get down and they tried to help.
I recall shortly after you and I first met in Lubbock, you may or may not remember this, but I remember going to lunch with you one day, and I think it was the anniversary of Brittany's death. And you were pretty quiet. You were somber that day. And I didn't know the story at the time. And, me, loudmouth me, I'm trying to bring it out of you, and you really didn't want to go into it. But I remember you not breaking down, but opening up and talking to me, and I felt like that was cathartic for you because I felt like it gave you a voice to tell her story, and that's also why I wanted to invite you here because even though it's been many many years, like I said, it's still fresh in your mind, and it's still there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, every day, we see picture on her birthday when we lived in Waco. On her birthday, we took a toy or a book to the children's ward at the
That's
hospital in
beautiful.
Waco.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Um, and so your wife continued to struggle, but she got back on track. Everything's okay,
Yes, she got back on track as much as she could. I mean,
right?
she runs a pretty normal life. She taught school for a few more years after that, and she did pretty well. Still struggles on her birthday, still struggles during Christmas and holidays, which anybody would. But
Right. How
we
many
had
years have you been together with your wife now?
45 years.
Congratulations. Cindy and I are almost at 38, so that's
We
fantastic.
got married August 23rd. So 23rd of August is 45 years.
That is such a spectacular thing that you've been able to be together in Christ through this and help each other through the struggle and amen I say to you. I'm proud of you, Jim Vines. That's incredible. I will tell you a funny story about Jim. I always admired his honesty. He's one of the most honest people I've ever known, and I remember Jim's one of Jim's favorite sayings to me was, "If I tell you it's Easter, you better paint your Easter eggs."
Yep, I do.
You remember telling me that?
Sure.
I remember you telling me that when we would look at a loan or you look at something. I remember you and me talking about that, and I always thought that was a funny saying. And I was like, yeah. And if Jim tells it to you, you can take it to the bank. No pun intended from a banker's perspective. But that was always something that I have remembered all these years about you, my friend. Um, so and not that wasn't enough because that's an incredible in a blink of an eye moment. But here more recently, you've had another challenge that you've had to get used to. Tell me what else happened.
Well, when I retired from the probation department at Waco, we moved up to the Fort Worth area to be with our daughter and grandkids. So we came up here, we bought a piece of land, and my wife and I both, been on ranches and worked cattle and worked stuff like that. So we always wanted animals. We bought a piece of land and built a house, and I built some pens. My daughter decided to move out here with us, so she moved up just kind of next door to us, built her a house. So we've been out here with the grandkids doing things with animals and feeding animals and going fishing and enjoying the country
Enjoying
life.
life.
Yep. So I was been out here working. I'd come up on weekends and I'd cut trees out and take the tractor and knock stuff out and, clean up stuff before we moved up here. And when I moved up here, I still worked on it until we started building the house. And I
How
got
many
tired.
acres you got?
Sir,
How many acres do you have?
right now we have 14.
14 acres. We just bought land out here in College Station. We got a little over an acre. So that's farm living for us.
Yep. We bought 14 acres. And when we split it with Kayla, we split it down the middle and we got 6.5 and they got 6.5. So we kind of did that for them, allow them to come out here. But back in 2022, 23, it was ice storm in February. I guess y'all remember the February ice storm up in this area.
Oh, it was horrible. Yeah, it affected the whole southeastern part of the country. It was
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
So one day I was walking out and it was cold. I was walking out to go to the horse barn and feed the horses. So I stepped right off the sidewalk onto a piece of ice. My legs went out from underneath me. And next thing I know, I'm on the ground. My legs in the air, my arms in the air, and I'm hurting really, really bad. So we called 911, the ambulance come pick me up, and they drove on the ice, took me to the nearest hospital. And the ER doctor says, I don't have a trauma neuro team here. I'm going to send you downtown Fort Worth. So he put me back in the ambulance and drove me downtown Fort Worth. I got downtown Fort Worth. They did the x-rays, MRIs, all that kind of stuff. And the doctor there said, I don't have my team. It's a weekend and it's icy. So we're going to just try to make you comfortable. And we'll have to keep you in the hospital until we can do surgery. He said, looks like you did something to your spinal cord. Of course, they had me totally out. So last thing I knew after he talked to me is I was in recovery, intensive care, woke up, had a thing around my neck, and he came in and said, Mr. Vines, you had crushed or compressed your spinal cord
Oh
from
gosh.
cervical 2 to cervical 6. He said, I welded you back, soldered you back, and the bones and everything. He said, you probably will be okay. He said, I even think you might even walk again. And so I said, well, that's what I need to do. That's what I want to do. So I laid up there in the ER, in the ICU for several days. They moved me over to a nicer place other than an ICU unit. And they sent me over to Baylor, Cotton White, neuro recovery. And I stayed over there for about 3 months and finally discharged me to daycare. So I went over there today. And while you're inpatient, they work you 3 hours a day on physical therapy. You know what the difference between a physical therapist and a terrorist is?
I'm sure you can tell me.
You can negotiate with a terrorist. You can't negotiate with a therapist. So every therapist I talked
It was a tough process.
it was a very painful and tough process. They would get me up, move my legs around, move my arms around, had OT and PT, uh, stretching me out, trying to get me to sit up. My core is weak, so I'm flopping around, and they started working on me pretty hard, doing a lot of things. During that process, uh, they kept working on me, and the PT and told me, I asked him one day, I said, Chris, what you think my chances are walking again? He said, Jim, I'll run some numbers and I'll tell you what I think. So he said, you probably only have a 35% chance of walking again. And I had my day neuro girl told me, I don't think you'll ever walk again. But what was there was my brother-in-law, and we were sitting there talking to her, And when she said, Jim, I don't think I'll ever walk again, my brother-in-law said, it's not up to you.
Well, that's
It's up
absolutely
to a
true.
higher
It's not.
power.
Well, so cut to the chase. Are you able to walk?
No,
Not yet.
I can only stand on my legs when I'm in a harness.
Okay.
My legs are, I can move my legs really, really good. My left leg is pretty stubborn, and my right leg does pretty good. Just can't hold the weight.
So after that happened, and I'm speaking from the experience of me when I lost my sight. And I know that's not a comparable thing, but it was traumatic to me to lose your eyesight. What did you go through a period of depression, and why me?
Well, I volunteered for a lot of studies, trauma studies, and
Right.
how do you handle it and all that kind of stuff. So we had a lot of conversations with those people, taking questions and asking questions. One of the questions is, do you feel like hurting yourself? No. Are you depressed? I said, no, not really. Uh, they kept asking those kind of questions. I finally said, you know, I'm going to lay here until Jesus wants me to get back up and work. And I said, I finally told him, I said, I know the chances of me walking are very slim, but they got wheelchairs. I said, I can still be useful. I can still
Amen. And
work.
I love hearing that, Jim. I have probably even less than a 35% chance of getting my sight back in my eye, even with the surgeries that they're talking about. And um, I've come to grips that God wants me with one eye, and I can still do everything. I can still drive. I can still do things. Now, yes, it kind of forced me to retire from teaching because you got to be able to watch the kids and know what's going on, and it was real hard to coach and stuff. And I certainly couldn't officiate football anymore. Although I think I could still do better than some of the guys that are out there. But anyway, um, but you know, I still had that determination that I'm going to go make something of my life and do something. And that's really what was the origin of this podcast, was that I wanted to reach out to people who have overcome obstacles, just like you and me and all the other people that I've talked to. They've overcome something, and they didn't give up, and they used their faith in Jesus, and they used their faith in their God, and they used their faith in their family, and their courageousness and their determination. And that's one thing I always knew about you, is you've had many challenges in life, and you've always overcome, and you've always uh, been a success at whatever you've chosen to do. And for that, I salute you, Jim. You're a great man. And I know you've had these horrible things happen to you, and I know that God's there walking with you, and I know Brittany is there with you as well.
Yes.
And I know we're kind of coming up to the 30-minute time period, so I want to be uh, cautious of your time. So I will kind of wrap it up here with us. Hang on with me until we get ended here. If you like hearing uplifting stories of overcoming challenges in life, click and like the subscribe button somewhere over there. I don't ever know which way to point. Perhaps you have a story of your own to share: an accident, sudden loss, PTSD, alcohol, drug abuse, a natural disaster, illnesses, and you would like to share that journey of overcoming. Please contact me at the email shown below. That one I know I can put below for consideration for a future podcast interview. Now, I rely on viewers like you to share their stories, and I've been so blessed. This is my 8th episode, and I've already got 4 more scheduled, and I've got like 10 more that I'm talking to people to share their stories. And I want people from all over in all walks of life. We're all God's children, and we all have a story to tell. Thanks again to Marketplace.live for their continued sponsorship to bring us these great stories to all of us. Marketplace.live, find what you want and get what you need. I want to thank everyone out there, especially my family, our military, our veterans and first responders who put their lives on the line every single day. We also can't forget our teachers and medical professionals who all make the world better one person at a time. But most of all, thank God for all the blessings in our world. We just need to make sure that we concentrate on them every single day. Until next time, Carpe Diem, seize the day.